Aloha, everyone. I am Lynn, Dream Girl Writer, coming to you with my new series for 2026 called A Kind and Gentle Life. And I'm starting out the series with a amusing upon our divine failures and sacred mistakes. And I believe it has served me well, at least, um, to kind of start with the dark side, start with the shadows. When we look, when we do our inner work, look at ourselves, look at what needs changing in our life. And with a new year coming, many of us make resolutions. I have been spending much of my time during the months of November and December kind of hunkering down into what I want to let go, what works in my life, what fails me, or what fails to serve me when it did serve me before. And moving on, what am I going to take with me? What dreams can I bring into this new life, this new world that we're going into, basically, because our human evolution and spiritual evolution on this planet has really intensified, as far as I'm concerned, and is coming to some critical passes in these next years, these coming years, especially 2026. And so I wanted to bring my part to that for being able to share my gifts with about dreams, about waking dreams, as well as about dreams we have in sleep, about the healing and the messages and the transformation that can come from doing dream work and or inner work through any creative process or meditative and reflective processes. And so this series, I intend to do one musing per month, one monthly musing with you to bring forth from me to you and from the collective to us all, back to us all, my awakenings that I am having, discovering, because I know that whatever I'm feeling inside of me, if I am true to the intent of my feelings or true to my doing my inner work, then I know that everyone will benefit from it. So this series has kind of a lofty purpose in wanting to serve the highest good of us all. And as an individual, I do have my unique gifts and my particular way in, which I would credit to my dream work as well as my writing. But even though we are individuals and it is kind of I feel it is incumbent upon me to bring forth my gifts, to share them in my own unique way, I am also drawing from the collective of us all. And so when one of us clears a shadow or clears a fear, especially a long-standing, deep-seated fear that we have carried with us throughout this life and possibly throughout many lifetimes, then all of us benefit from that. And so that's kind of the ulterior motive, if you will, behind this series, even though I hope for it to be practical and I hope for you to be able to draw your own sense of direction and wisdom from it and to actually match it up with your own musings, your own reflections, your own dreams, your own wisdom, your own inner callings. And I want to credit right off the top a very important mentor in my life, Richard Rudd of the Gene Keys, and the wisdom that he has brought to this world by sharing his own gifts and by sharing his revelations and his awakenings. And he has been an instrumental and powerful source of wisdom in my life, and his system, the Gene Keys, his writings have been very evocative and transformative for me. And so, with this first video that I do, called again the divine, I had to think for a minute, divine failures and sacred mistakes, comes from working with my shadow and being prompted by the Gene Keys wisdom to dovetail it with my dream wisdom and to take a look, a really solid look in the mirror and clear those, all that background static, all those fears of 7 decades of life on this planet. And it has been very, very healing for me to look at the shadows. And while I feel, as Richard says as well, that we should spend 90% of our time on examining and discovering and uncovering our gifts, that about 10% of the time we need to look in the mirror and transform those shadows that have been nipping at our heels all our lives. And yet at the same time, there is the balance can transfer at times, so there can be days or weeks, maybe even months, that we do have to kind of hunker down and deal with some very heavy things that are could be unpleasant or could kind of interfere with the smoothness of our lives. But there is also, as Richard says, and as I have known for many years from personal experience, every shadow contains a gift. And those gifts are just waiting to be uncovered. It's not like we have to do anything for them. It's not like we have to earn them. And we never have to push ourselves beyond where we want to go. But if we are tired, just tired of being tired, tired of being disappointed in ourselves and in others, if we've gotten to the point where the payoff for whatever we have in this material life or whatever success, outward success we have, is becoming too burdensome for our inner life, too hard on our spiritual health. When we get to that point, there is a kind and gentle way to approach our shadows and to look back on our past and to shine a beam of light, but very gentle and softly focused light on our past, to look at those divine failures, those places where we felt like we really messed up. And we maybe turned a corner where we can never go back again. To sort through that in such a way as if we are our own beloved child. So if you went to your parent, if you happened to have a parent or a caregiver when you were young that you could go to when you had, terrible fears or woke up with a nightmare or had conflict at school or something, if you had someone that you could talk to, imagine that setting, or even if you never had that, imagine it for yourself, where there's a kind and loving and benevolent presence listening to you and really listening to you and is willing to hear everything you have to say without judgment, to be able to love you regardless of whatever you've done and however horrible you think it may be, or shameful, or however much you want to hide, have this conversation with yourself. Create this benevolent presence in your life where you can go to, and wherever you can get to it, or however you imagine that this presence is there for you, whether it's out in nature, in walking, whether it's writing, whether it's painting, drawing, doing some kind of artistic, ceramic work, something with your hands, whether it's in unpacking your dreams, whether it's in just sitting with a cup of tea by the fire, however you feel most at home and safest, that's where you can do your best shadow work. And if you need a mentor, or you need some kind of outside influence, a friend, or a family member, or a loved one, or a spouse, then ask them if they will be that listener for you, if they will be that reflection for you, if they will be that person who sits as a witness to your pain, or your shadows, or your mistakes, or your failures, and promises to stay in love while they are listening, while they are witnessing your pain, while they are allowing you to come to your own solution, allowing you to walk that walk alone, but knowing that they're there at your side, that you're never really alone, even when we don't have a loved one in form, in human form, or a pet, as many of us enjoy. Even when there is no outside material form or help available, to be able to imagine that, because we are never alone, because we do have a higher sacred purpose and collective being that we're all a part of. And so, this, my offering to you today, is to take a walk on the dark side, but a very gentle and very aware walk, where you can stop at any time, where you know that regardless of how shameful the memory might be, or how painful it might be, or whatever, how unforgiving you still may be of yourself or of others, that you're just going to take a little look at it. And if a little look or a glance is all you can take, and you have to go running for, 5 miles after that in order to shake off the fear or the anxiety, then do it in whatever stages you need to do it, in whatever context or whatever situation that you need to. Be the master of your own destiny in this respect. To just, because these fears and these shadows and these hurts, they're real. And they're embodied with this, our emotion within us. Our emotions are in the cells of our, if they're not cleared, if they're not dealt with and processed, then they linger in the cells of our body, literally. And I am living proof of this. And so locate where that fear may be. Part of your process might be to first sit with it, the realization that you've come up with, the so-called failure or mistake. Sit with it and see if you can just feel where it might be in your body. Breathe into it. Deep belly breaths. And see if you can just pinpoint an actual space in your body where it might be. And when you do that, then give it some space. Maybe I used to talk to my shadows. I used to have full on conversations with them. Hi, thank you for coming. I know you have a gift for me. Let me know what I can do. And, for me, because I had my dream work also feeding me messages and kind of connecting me to that source of wisdom, the solution to the problem, or the awakening from the shadow to take it into the gift. Because I had my dream work and because I'm also a nature lover, and I was able to a lot of times just go for a walk and come to that aha, come to that epiphany about it. So, however your process works, first of all, first and foremost, be kind and gentle with yourself. This is a tough process. It really is simpler than we think and will eventually become easeful. And I promise you that with practice. But at first, it feels scary, and those fears are very old, and some of them have come with us since birth. And so we have to appreciate the intensity of the work we're taking on and give it to us or let ourselves deal with it in a way that we can digest it. When I'm a foodie and I love really good food, even if it's very simple. I mean, I love gourmet food as well, but I love really simple, just chicken soup that hits the spot, or just toast and butter with my coffee on a rainy day, and to just, if we, were to just eat all the food that we loved all at one time, we'd be either very overweight or very unhealthy. So your shadows are like that. It's like just take them a little bit at a time, just because they are going to link. There's kind of chains that link fears all the way back to the big mother lode of fear. And you don't want to go there right away. We're humans, even though we're spiritual beings, when all is said and done. We are humans having to deal with human limitations and a human body that has all these aches and pains and fears and traumas stored inside of it. So appreciate that. Appreciate that you have this spiritual aspect of you that is calling to you to be your highest and best self, to be your very best version of yourself in this life. But you can't go, from A to Z in 20 seconds. Take your time. I'm in my 70s and I'm still doing this work, and I'm still loving the results of it. I'm still, in fact, because I have practiced it and found the joy that is uncovered with it, and the absolute peace of being that I have gained. And mostly in the last few years, and certainly I'd say 90% of the clearing of my fears and my shadows has taken place in the last decade, or 10 to 15 years. So, if you're younger than me, and probably a lot of you are a lot younger than me, you're doing well at any age. It doesn't matter how long it takes, because we're all in here until we're gone. And so we may as well make the best use of our time. And that's another thing to consider when you are clearing your shadows and doing this inner work and coming up with these fears or anxieties that you didn't even know you had. You thought you were dealing with one thing, and all of a sudden there's this other big thing looming there in your body or coming up like Mount Vesuvius. To keep in mind that we have all the time in the world, that we are evolutionary beings. And in fact, it is I have found, I know that we are eternally recycled, if you will. And so why worry about it? It's, it can happen now, or it can happen sooner than later. But even if there are things that cause you to block your transformation or your clearing of your fears, give yourself a break and say, that is divine will. I will get to that. Just always reset the default to the love of yourself, reset the default to the confidence that you have everything it takes to do whatever you want, but the timing is critical. And forcing yourself never helps. Guilting yourself out never helps. Being afraid of being afraid, you know, being unable to face your fears because you think it will kill you or make you different or change your life for the worse. Honor whatever comes up and just let it be there. Because most of them are mental nonsense. They're just concepts that we learned as children or in a social paradigm. Let your mind say to you what it will, and then give it space and be gentle and kind and be your own best parent. Be your own benevolent presence, your own watching witness that wants to be with you until peace comes, until those fears are cleared, until that pain is processed. Thank you for listening. I am Lynn, Dream Girl Writer, talking to you about a kind and gentle life and wishing you well in remembering with love your divine failures and sacred mistakes. Bye for now.